Well, hello, everybody, and welcome once again to our Wednesday night cruise chat. We are VFC, Vacations for Canadians, your friendly Canadian owned travel agency that lives for cruising, Disney, and epic land adventures. So glad that you can join us all again for another cruise chat for Canadians. Tonight on our panel, we have Matt, who will be doing our presentation, Karen, Luke, Carrie, and Linda. And yes, I am wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. Linda just asked me about it right before we started. And yes, I have to be proud of my Leafs because we don't know how far they're going to make it in the playoffs. So we have to be very excited right now for them. All right, what's on deck tonight? Matt is talking all things Galapagos, and he doesn't just know the Galapagos, he knows the Galapagos. He has actually been there, personal, in live to the Galapagos, and actually Carrie and I have both been there ourselves as well. So we do know the Galapagos. So yeah, after that, we will have a live Q&A with our amazing panel and bring on those cruising questions. Pop them in the cruise chat any time of the night, and we will definitely get to them for you. Also, you want to pop your questions in or just even say hi so that you are in our surprise giveaway that we will have at the end of the night. All right, pop your questions in. We'll tackle them as we're going along. Thanks for hopping aboard, and I am going to send it over to Matt.
Thank you very much, Tina. When we go through our weeks and we look at the different topics that we're going to discuss, it's there's always certain ones that hit closer to home and really strike a chord with us. And when the opportunity came to do a presentation on the Galapagos, this was definitely one that I wanted to be a part of, whether I was going to be on the panel or talk about it, because whenever anybody asks me about bucket list destinations, which has been my favorite trip that I've ever been on, the bar is set so high with this destination and this trip that we went on that it is a no-brainer. There isn't even a close comparison when it comes to the trip that we did to the Galapagos. So I am very excited to share what I can in the time that we have. I mean, if we were with our clients in person, as I have in the past at different events, we could talk for much longer about all the different things that there are to see, to do, and experience when you visit the Galapagos. So some of this is going to be broad brush about the region. Some of it is going to be a lot more fixated on celebrity because that's the one that we've all sailed on. So it's going to be more experience-based from my personal travels. So I will touch on some of the things specific with celebrity, but for other ones, I'll keep it a little more wide range just because there are other lines that go there as well. And so we'll touch on those. But as I get deeper into the presentation, you'll see how it becomes a little bit more focused on celebrity and their ship, the Flora, that sails through the Galapagos. So when you think about the Galapagos, a lot of people think about Charles Darwin, obviously one of the lead scientists who visited there back in 1835. You can see the photo there. They have a statue of him erected on one of the islands in the Galapagos, and that's me in the photo with him. So obviously he would, in a trans-Pacific sailing, they would stop in the Galapagos and they would hit up 4 different islands in the Galapagos. And this is where the initial studies started to take place, where they were able to start differentiating all the species of wildlife that were there, as well as doing a lot of geological studies, in addition to the biological studies, just to see the evolution of the different species that are there. They were identifying so many different kinds of birds and tortoises and other land mammals that were there that were only in that region. They could thrive in that region, and and weren't found anywhere else. And so they really wanted to not only study the different animals that were there, but the fauna as well. So the different plants and habitats that were there. And so it was really the kickoff of everything that would happen in the Galapagos Island, and identifying all of these amazing species of animals that are there, which have continued to thrive to this day. So when we look at the Galapagos Island, so obviously we're talking about the Galapagos. Its closest mainland would be Ecuador. You can see the different islands that are there. So when you talk about itineraries, this is something that I want you to kind of have a photograph in your memory of, because typically when they do their sailings, they will either focus on the outside of the islands, or they will transition through the interior and do an inside loop. So you can see there's multiple different dots on there, and you can see the map symbols where it highlights all the different islands. And then those blue markers are all the different touch points where they can bring the expedition vessels onto the beach, or if there's a proper landing area, so that they can bring guests into those islands to be able to see the different areas. And this is part of what ties into Darwin's studies, because he noticed that as he went to the different islands, he would find different species that would be specific to one island, but wouldn't be on the others, even though these are all so close to one another, that these species would only remain on certain islands and not on other ones. So that plays a very integral part into, for anyone who's going to travel there now, that depending on what types of species you're looking for, you may have to do an inside loop or an outside loop in order to be able to find those species, just as Charles Darwin did. If you want to see those types of animals, you would have to do the loop that features those parts of the islands where those animals live. So right just off center, slightly to the right, you can see Baltra. That is where, when you fly into the Galapagos, that is where the airport is based. It's a small military airport, small runway strip. That's where you fly into. And then from there, there is a marina close by that they would take you to. And that's where you would meet up with your Zodiacs and make your way to whatever cruise vessel that you would be sailing around the Galapagos Islands. So that's just to give you a bit of a geography when we're thinking about the islands. And you can see, obviously, the different sizes. Some of them have a lot more built up area with volcanoes and some lava features that dominate a lot of the landscape. Whereas some of the smaller ones are just more vegetation and where that wildlife thrives. So talking about the cruise lines that sail there, like I said, I'm just going to broad brush over the ones, but here are some of the different cruise lines that do sail there. Silver Sea and Celebrity being two of the main ones. But there's also some of the more luxury expedition lines that go there, like Hurtigruten, National Geographic. They're linked in with Lindblad, so they're there as well as Avalon Waterways. So those are some of the ones that are there. There's also private companies that offer sort of a land and sea tour combination that you can book privately. But these are the main ones that are there, that are featured on these like expedition type sailings. So like I said, I'm going to focus most of the conversation just with Celebrity, because obviously I'm coming from an experience base. This is the ship that we sail on. Celebrity used to have 3 in the Galapagos. However, the guides who work in the Galapagos are also park rangers for the islands. And part of their duties that they have to do is recording the wildlife that are there when they make certain observations. If there's any kind of spills or environmental concerns, they keep records of all that. But they also monitor the traffic that is in the waters there. So with the limitation on how many ships can be in there and how many passengers can be on those ships, Celebrity have scaled back their operations and have sold their older 2 ships and have now focused all of their operations in the Galapagos on this beautiful brand new vessel, the Celebrity Flora, which was designed specifically for the Galapagos Islands for its expedition sailing. Part of that is just the propulsion systems. It operates off a different fuel system, but the propulsion system allows it to be able to kind of hover in one spot and not have to anchor. So there's no ecological damage when it comes to where they stop. And then you can see on the back of the ship there where they have these platforms so that you can get in and out of the Zodiac very easily. And it doesn't matter about any mobility issues. When I was on my sailing, there was a gentleman with a walker. All of the guides who are the naturalists that sail with you, they help you on and off the Zodiac, and the waves can get a little bumpy, so it's definitely good to have them there. So it's not like a pride thing that, like, even for somebody like myself, I still made sure to take the assistance when getting off of there. But like I said, there was a gentleman who had mobility issues, and he was still able to get on and off that Zodiac, no problem. So there you can see how you get to the ship and how you get off the ship to go to your different excursions. So one of the things that people like to ask about when sailing in the Galapagos is how to pack. I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot of information, but there are some ones that I wanted to highlight. The first one, talking about clothing, the temperature barely varies when it comes to the Galapagos because you are right on the equator. So the temperature will remain quite steady, which is how these types of species can thrive in that environment. So with that being said, like you saw, there is never any kind of land place where you're going to dock. You are always going to have to get into these Zodiacs, and depending on how they beach at the islands that you're going to visit, you may have to walk through water just to be able to get to land. So it's important that the clothes that you have are lightweight and with that quick drying, because depending on how much you're going to pack clothing wise, you might be re-wearing some of these clothes over and over again. So you want them to be quick drying and lightweight, so that it's kind of breezy on you and helps with that air circulation. The other key part, obviously, is that you want that UV protection. So any kind of general outdoors outfitting store will have all these types of clothing, but they're a good thing to have when you are sailing in the Galapagos. Hats and sunglasses, again, it's not for fashion. This is more for protection, as clearly identified by that awful bucket hat that I'm wearing. That was all about just protection and a lot less on being fashion forward on this trip. But having good sunglasses that have that proper filters in your lenses so that you can block out a lot of the UV rays, that is critical. Obviously, when you're seeing all this, this is the whole reason that you want to go there, is so that you can capture all of these amazing wildlife when you're photographing them. So having a waterproof case for a cell phone or a GoPro, or if you are someone who's going to be doing a lot more light intensity types of excursions where you're not going to be in the water, you can obviously bring a high profile camera, or if it's something that you're just going to keep on the ship for taking photos from the ship, if you have a really decent camera, then I would put that in that same category. But definitely there is a lot of opportunities to be in the water. So a GoPro is a great asset if you have it. If not, then just having a really good waterproof phone case for your cell phone, you'll still be able to capture some amazing imagery when you're in the water as well as on land. So with footwear, you're going to want to have good hiking shoes, obviously with a really good tread, because a lot of the landform that you're going to be walking on is uneven. Like I said, there's some of the excursions that go over lava formations, so it's a lot of jagged rock. There's some climbing when you're going uphill, so having really good hiking shoes, that outdoor footwear, as well as a water shoe, because like I said, when you're getting off the Zodiacs, a lot of the times where you're beaching, you're still going to be going through water before you get to a land formation where you're going to go hiking. So having those shoes that you can kind of do a quick change on is really beneficial for you going in and out of the Zodiacs. The magnetic hooks, I mean, that's a pretty good staple when it comes to cruising for a lot of regular cruisers. However, they become almost critical, at least I found when I was in the Galapagos, because when you talk about that quick dry clothing, when you get back from your excursions, depending on what you've been wearing, whether it's bathing suits that are under a wetsuit or you have some quick dry pants, shorts, shirts, things like that, having those hooks to be able to hang these items of clothing all over your room really gives the ability to dry that stuff out, because everything gets really wet. The gear that you're provided by the cruise line, they have a dedicated hanging station for all of that stuff. So you don't have to worry about the equipment and hanging all that up, because there are assigned spots for that. And I'll show you that in another slide. But for your own clothing, being able to hang all that stuff in your room, people get very creative making their own clotheslines by running some twine or whatever between two magnetic hooks. And then you can hang your stuff all over your room so that you can dry it out quick, so that you have it ready to go for the next day. Because on these excursions, because it is an expedition type cruise, you're doing multiple excursions in one day. So you might be wearing 2 different outfits in a day. So you're going to go through a lot of laundry real quick if you don't have the means to be able to rewear some of these clothing. So that's where being able to hang it up is essential. Sunscreen, definitely essential for when you're there. However, you're going to want to make sure that you're following regulations when it comes to the type of sunscreen so that it's environmentally friendly. Rain jackets, windbreakers, and fleece sweaters. That's just because the temperature will dip so much at night. It'll get really cool at night and then crank right back up the next day. As well as for rain, having a good rain jacket, something with Gore-Tex or something like that can really shelter the rain. It also works as a really great windbreaker, as a layer to be able to put on and take off. So having that layer can be really great for both wind and rain if you encounter it. And you'll see a photo a little later on of me with my Gore-Tex jacket, because we definitely encountered some rain. For altitude meds, I talked about this on a previous cruise chat. When you first fly into Ecuador, you're going to fly into Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. And so just to give you a comparison, I put the elevation there in meters, but it's 2,850 for Quito. So if you were to do a comparison, Toronto is 79. So it is a massive elevation shift if you were flying from, say, Pearson and then landing in Quito. So a lot of people really feel the effects of having that sudden change in altitude, especially when they're first getting off the airplane. Some people, it doesn't affect them, and that's great. I would compare it to people who have motion sickness. There are some that get on the ships, have no issues at all. And then there are others that have to live and die by those that they put on the behind their ear to help them with motion sickness. And so, it's the same with altitude meds. There's definitely a requirement for it for some people, and for others, not so much. Things that you won't need to worry about is a backpack and water bottle. And I'm speaking specifically in this case to the Celebrity Cruise Line, because they provide these for you. So you can see on my shoulder there, the straps of the backpack. But the backpack and water bottle are provided by the cruise line. So, single use, not having to worry about any plastic like that. Again, trying to be environmentally friendly, but no, backpack and water bottle definitely don't need to bring, because they're provided for you by the cruise line. So when talking about an ideal itinerary, you can just come in and do the 7-day cruise. The cruises are every week, 7 days in and out. However, there are the options to add on pre and post cruise, and that really gives you an opportunity to see Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. So I really highlight this option to clients that I speak with about the opportunity to see Quito up close and personal. So by doing this 10-night package, which Celebrity offers, You get 2 nights of accommodations beforehand, where you stay at a 5-star hotel. Typically, it's the JW Marriott. And with that included is your hotel, all your meals. There's a guided city tour. There's transfers, as well as your own private chartered flight that takes you in and out of Quito into Baltra, as I mentioned on the map slide. Once you get in there, then you'll do your 7-night cruise. Like I said, either the inner loop going between the islands or the outer loop going around the outside. And for each itinerary, there are different species that you're going to get to see. So for some that have gone there and done the inner loop, now they want to go back and do the outer loop just so that they can see all the different species that they missed on the first go around. And then once you come back, you'll be flown back on that same private charter flight back into Quito, back to your hotel for a 1-night stay before your flight. And then depending on your flight times, they'll arrange your transfers and get you back to the airport in Quito for your flight back. There is also an 11-night option so that you get 2 nights in Quito. That way you can do some self-guided tours, or they offer some additional tours that come with an extra cost. Or you can do a 16-night one where they also add Machu Picchu. So for those that aren't completely exhausted after their 7-night cruise of the Galapagos, you can tack on another 5 days and go see Machu Picchu. So what's included in this fare? So like I said, for the pre-cruise and post-cruise, if you were to do that 10-night option, you have your hotel, the transfers, the meals, the city tour, as well as those chartered round-trip flights. So the only people that's on that aircraft are the 100 guests that are getting on the Flora, and they will fly you from Quito to Baltra. Once you're on that beautiful Flora, you're going to experience fine dining, all locally sourced foods, amazing dining on board, premium beverage package, premium Wi-Fi so that you can share all of your experiences with your friends back home. That water bottle and backpack that I spoke of earlier, so those are gifted to you. They're actually in your hotel as soon as you arrive pre-cruise. And then your gratuities are included. And then when it comes to the excursions, every single excursion is included. There is usually 2 a day, and on some days they even squeeze in a third one midday in between the morning excursion and the afternoon excursion. All the naturalist guides, your guides are included on every excursion. And then there is a post-cruise gift that you get before you return home. So pretty much everything you can think of on this sailing is included. There is very little left over that is not included. The only 2 things that I've highlighted on here that are not included is spa treatments, because there is a small spa built in on the Flora for people who need maybe a good massage after they've overworked some muscles that maybe they don't use quite frequently on some of these heavier intensity excursions. Maybe they need a good massage to loosen up some of those muscles. And then the glamping. And for those that are wondering what is glamping, well, it's something that, again, it's more specific to Celebrity Flora, but it is an amazing opportunity to have dinner under the stars. There is 2 of these alcoves that are side by side. So in the first alcove, they have it set up as a dining space. You get a prefix menu where you have this beautiful dinner on the top deck in your own private alcove with your own dedicated service staff that are there to attend to you and serve you dinner under the stars. Beautiful scenery that you get to take in while you're there. That's me and my lovely wife enjoying dinner because we did the glamping. And then the alcove that's next to you is all set up with a bed, with curtains to give you privacy. There's a nearby washroom so that you can bring your toiletries up with you and look after yourself for the night when you're up there. They provide you a tablet that has both movies that you can watch while you're hanging out in bed, or music. So they had like an Enya playlist that we put on while we were hanging out. And then there's flashlights for you to be able to find your way back onto the ship to get to the washrooms at night, as well as insect repellent if you need it. We didn't need it because there's all the breeze on the top deck of the ship, and that kind of kept any bugs at bay. So we didn't have to worry about that. And then when you rise in the morning, that same dedicated service staff are there to provide you breakfast in the morning before you make your way back down to your cabin to get yourself ready for your morning excursions. So the cost for that is $300 US. However, If you book in the month of May, that is offered to you as an included luxury. So you can have that included in your booking. If you book through us in the month of May, that glamping session is included. So that's a $300 US perk that we will include in your Celebrity Galapagos reservation. So only in the month of May, from the 1st to the 31st, you book that, we will include that in your reservation. Amazing opportunity and experience. So for the excursions, the picture there is kind of an opportunity to see every night the naturalists meet with us in the lounge, and they give us a briefing on all the different options. So you can see there, like in the morning, they were giving us two different options. So one was a lower intensity, one a higher intensity. And then in the afternoon, there was three different options. So there you would have like a lower intensity, a medium intensity, and a high intensity. So low intensity, that's, for when we're at the islands, it's more just going around in the zodiacs and being able to see everything from a distance. Or if you get on land, then we're talking about a very short walk on usually very level walking surfaces. When you get into medium intensity, then you're stretching out the walks a little further. You might have some uneven footing, or you're doing just some relaxed level of snorkeling. So you're not getting into too much depth. You're not in the water for too long a period of time. Once we get into high intensity, and they will go over all this in great detail so that you can make an educated decision on which one of these excursions you want to do. Then we're talking about the deep water snorkeling. That's where we're talking about squeezing in that extra excursion in the middle of the afternoon to go kayaking, or you're on these longer, quicker paced hikes. So obviously they got a lot of distance to cover, but you're all on these excursions for the same period of time. So you would be walking these hikes at a little quicker pace. But by having those longer hikes, you get more into the interior of some of these islands where you're really going to get to see a lot of that unique wildlife that's specific to those islands. Whereas if you were on a low intensity excursion on the Zodiacs and you're just going around the perimeter of the island, your opportunity to see some of these wildlife may be a little limited. And again, that's very island specific, but just to give you an example of the differences between a low intensity and a high intensity and what you're going to see, that would be definitely something that would stand out. So like I said, these briefings are all given the night before by all the naturalists, the ones that are taking out those tours. They will brief their tour and what to expect. And then you will have the opportunity to sign up for which one you have. So it's not like you have to make all these decisions in advance like you would, say, on other like river cruises and things where the excursions are included, but you have to decide those all in advance. They want you to be able to decide the night before, and then you can see how your body feels and make a better decision on what type of excursion you want to do based on how you're feeling. So if you're feeling a little run down, you can scale back on the intensity of your excursions. So here's some photos that I just wanted to share from all the different excursions that we did. So you can see the kayaking that we did there. It's 2 to a kayak. So depending on the skill levels, some people were able to navigate the waters quite well. Others, there was a lot of domestics going on the kayaks. So, choose your path wisely when you're paddling around, depending on your abilities. But there's some great opportunities there where like the sea lions will come swimming right under the kayak and even nudging the boats, especially the younger pups. They are quite playful and will nudge your boats and swim right by you. Amazing opportunities. Or some of the stingrays, depending on where you're kayaking. There are different species of stingrays that will also swim in schools that will go around your kayaks, which are great to see. So if you can have a strong paddler in the back, then the one in the front can be operating the GoPro and getting some amazing footage while you're in the kayaks. The Zodiac excursions, there you can see that bottom left. So everybody has their phones ready or cameras ready, or they have a GoPro ready to stick in the water to be able to get something from under the water to see all the different species. This is when we're going through the mangroves that are in between two of the islands. So you get to see some amazing turtles and we saw some. They were called California stingrays, so they were like a really bright fluorescent orange that were sailing in schools that were going right under our zodiac. So we have some great photos of that. The middle photo, that's us on one of the longer hikes going over the lava fields. So there you can see that very uneven, rocky terrain that we were doing long hikes on. The one in the top left, you can see we're just going straight uphill. So again, these are those high intensity hikes where you really want to be honest with yourself about your abilities and whether these are ones that you would be well suited for. But, you know, once you get up there, then you get to see some unique wildlife that you might not have the opportunity to see. So there we were going to see the red-footed boobies, which are a little harder to find on some of the islands than some of the other bird species. So we were going up there to see them because there was a lot of nests that were up at the top of those hills. So that was that excursion. The one in the bottom right, again, with the Galapagos, everything is about the environment. Everything is about restoration, protection. And so part of the unique experience that you get to have on this this cruise is that you get taken to a place where they do a lot of tree planting. Every one of the trees that they give you to plant comes with its own tag. You can GPS geolocate where you're planting your tree, and then they take you around the woods and show you, like, these are guests that planted their trees 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago, and you can really see how much they've grown, and every one of them is personally tagged. So if you were to ever go back, you could find where your tree was and see how much it's grown. So just an amazing way to give back to the environment and help with that protection. And so that's a photo of our group when we did this excursion and went out and planted the trees. So for promotions that are going on right now with Celebrity, coming up, we have for 2027 sailings, there is 50% off the second guest, as well as they also have a promotion going on for free round trip air. So that is something that you can add. It's through the Flights by Celebrity program, so that you get that round trip air included in your cruise fare to be able to fly round trip and get you out to Quito and finally onto that charter flight and get you aboard the beautiful Celebrity Flora. And then the other one, like I mentioned already, so there you can see the two alcoves side by side. You can see the headboard of the second alcove. That's where the bed is set up. So that's those alcoves where they do the glamping experience. So if you book between May 1st and May 31st, you will get that glamping experience included in your reservation. Like I said, that's a $300 US perk that's included in your reservation. So an amazing experience. And even there, that's a photo from their marketing as opposed to the one that I showed you before of my wife and I, but same beautiful skyline as the sun is starting to set with your dedicated service staff coming out to serve you dinner as the sun sets, and you get that amazing view. And when you think about how remote this area is, the stars and the constellations that you get to see when you're on that ship at night is absolutely amazing. And we actually had one of the naturalists who had this 1,000,000 candle watt flashlight who was actually be able to give us a lesson when we were on the top deck of the ship on the different constellations. So we literally did a mapping of the stars with one of the naturalists, which was just such a unique and cool experience to be able to do on the ship. So like I said, I could go on and on and on talking about the different experiences, about which species are specific to which islands. When I was getting ready to go on this, Tina was very nice enough to share a pamphlet that she got off of Amazon, which highlights which species are prominent in which islands. So it really gave you a little bit of a learner's guide, similar to like bird watching, so that you had this little pocket guide that you could know what you were looking for when you booked your sailing. So you knew if you were doing the inner loop, these were going to be some of the species that you were going to get to see. If you're doing the outer loop, then you're looking more for these ones. So it gave you a little bit of an education piece as you got ready to go. And it really just built into that excitement and got us ready so that we knew what we were looking for when we got there. And made us look a little smarter when we got onto the islands, because we already had a bit of an idea of what we were looking for, and impress the guides. So that's it. That's I know it's kind of a broad brush, and a little bit focused more on celebrity, but I did that because we have these fantastic promotions that are coming up right now, and so what better time to highlight the celebrity flora and this sailing of the Galapagos with these promotions that are coming up in a few weeks' time, so that if there's ever a time where you were considering sailing to the Galapagos, the month of May could be the perfect time for you to book that cruise to the Galapagos and take advantage of some of these amazing promotions that are coming up in just a few weeks' time. Back to you, Tina.
Thanks, Matt. That was awesome. And I'm going to add one thing to your list about what's included, and this might shock you, but a visit to the doctor on the ship is actually included. And I know that from firsthand experience. I was having some tummy issues and went down to see the doctor. They gave me a prescription, all included. So it really is an all-inclusive vacation. And one thing that to note is, when you're there, you get to look out and see what all the other ships are out in the Galapagos. And, the celebrity ship is the nicest ship in all of Galapagos. I can honestly say that from looking around at all the other ships that were out there. Okay, so let's go on to our Q&A. Linda, do you want to take on some questions?
Sure. We don't have a lot yet, but I know that they start rolling in once we start talking. So we're going to start with Lori. And she says, what is the average age of people sailing? We're worried we are getting too old if we don't go too soon. LOL.
So I'll say
not
this,
at all.
Lori, I was the youngest person on the ship. So I think you're going to be fine. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, we were definitely the youngest by a large margin. Again, a lot of that just ties in with the affordability for that sailing. So you're going to see older people on the ship, but are older people who are looking after themselves and they're active, and they are the types of people that those expedition type cruises are the ones that they're looking for. They're looking for the experiences. They're the ones that do the Alaskan land cruise tours, so that they can get into the interior and do those more inclusive experiences. So you're going to see those same types of cruisers on these types of sailings.
What about you, Carrie? What was your experience as far as age?
I feel like I was average. So we had some guests that were in their 20s, and it was a multi-generational vacation. It was a girl, her mother, and her grandmother. So the age varies, I'm going to say.
So I think they're saying you have lots of time to do this, Lori, but from what Matt said, now is a great month to book it because there's some great deals.
That's right.
Yeah, and just to go back to that story about the person that had the mobility issues, like even when we did the guided tour in Quito, all of the staff literally took him from his walker, put him in a chair, and carried him into this restaurant that we ate at, because there was an elevated step to get into the restaurant. And they put him in a chair and literally carried him like he was in a bar mitzvah, and carried him right into the restaurant to his table, just because he was going to have an issue being able to step into the restaurant. Like, they will go so far out of their way to provide that amazing service right throughout the entire door-to-door process, from the time you get off the plane to the time you're getting on a plane to go back home.
Okay, and Matt, how far do you know how far
do you know how far right now they go out to? Like, they would go out to 2027 for sure.
It's the end of 2027 right now.
Right. So it's further out, Lori, than any other celebrity cruises. They go pretty far out with Galapagos because you don't have to negotiate where you're going to stop or anything like that. It's all set all the time. So you can book right to the end of 2027.
And you can do a payment plan to get it paid off easily. So a little bit every month. It's a doable vacation bucket list.
Yeah. And there is no non-refundable rates. Everything is refundable. There isn't an option for a non-refundable when it comes to the Galapagos. And you, like Carrie said, you can use flex pay. The gratuities are included on all of them. So, I mean, it's not like every room is a suite on the Flora. So when you think about the price that you're going to pay for that trip, you got to keep in mind, every room is a suite. Everybody's getting premium beverage, premium Wi-Fi, premium dining. You're getting that chartered flight. You're getting all of your excursions, the guides, the gifts. Like, it is an expedition cruise. And if you do a comparative to other costs for expedition type cruises, you'll actually see that this is either right in that same area, if not priced a little lower than if you were to compare it to, say, like Antarctica or something like that. You're going to see where it fits in that price point.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so Wendy says, hi, booked for January. Can't wait. Wendy from Wasaga. So I'm going to go around, and I know 3 of you, right? Karen, Luke, you guys haven't been yet, right? It's still on your bucket lists? Okay, so I'm going to ask the 3 who have gone. What would be your one tip for Wendy as she plans to head to the Galapagos this January? So we'll start with Tina, go to Carrie, and then we'll let Matt wrap it up again.
Well, I'm going to suggest that you get that little pamphlet that Matt spoke about if you don't already have it. It's on Amazon for like $10, and it's great because it's waterproof, and you can take it out with you and check off all the species that you've seen. I did the exact same thing when I went to Africa last year too. It was really good to have a handy little reference saying, okay, we've seen this, this, and this, but we haven't seen this yet, so now we're looking for this. And I just thought that was really handy.
My tip, Matt already mentioned it in the presentation, to pack right. So lots of layers. When we were in Quito, we asked about the weather because I'm asking questions. Okay, this is what it is today. What is it in the month of November? What is it in the month of April? They mentioned it's kind of spring all year long. So think of spring in Toronto. You're going to have warm days, you're going to have rainy days, you're going to have a little bit of cool nights. So lots of layers, clothes that dry quickly. Lululemon was a great shopping store for me personally. And Sport Check, like, just, you don't have to dress up. So not like a regular cruise. There's no fancy dresses. Everyone is basically on an expedition, so you can dress how you like in the dining room. So if you want to wear like warm jogging pants because you're just feeling chilly that night, it's doable and it goes. You don't have to worry about any fancy dinner clothes, but if you want to dress up and you like to do that, it goes as well. So pack how you are comfortable.
Yeah. What do I add to my presentation in those other 2 answers? I'll just say that be very honest with yourself about where your physical limitations are, because the last thing that you want to do is overexert yourself and it come back to bite you, where you're going to have to recover for 2 or 3 days and miss out on maybe some of the islands that you've been looking forward to that are a little further down. So with that card, if there are certain things that you really have your heart set on that you really want to see, everybody wants to see the blue-footed boobies. You will know where they are going to be, and you're going to have 100 pictures of freaking blue-footed boobies on your phone in a matter of minutes, and then wonder right, and wonder why I took so many pictures of the same bloody bird. But when you're there, you're so excited that you just can't help yourself. So knowing what you're going there to see, tempo yourself so that you don't overexert yourself at the beginning. And there are other things that they do on the ship than just the expedition. I have photos from us doing silent disco. There is a gym on the ship, whether people actually use it because they are literally just doing exercise all day, every day. But there is a gym on the ship. Like it is a full service cruise ship. There is a small store that has clothing. So if there's anything that you forgot or if something got damaged, there is a small store there that has quick dry clothing, sun hats, coats, things like that you can pick up. And for those that have some sort of mobility issues, having a walking stick, I found was really beneficial for some of the guests that they picked up at Costco. They sell these walking sticks at Costco that they use for some of the hikes. So they would do the medium intensity where they had some of those short distance hikes, but you knew if you did those hikes, you got to see some of that amazing wildlife that you wouldn't get to see doing a Zodiac tour from the perimeter of the island. So they really wanted to be able to do that. But we're obviously still limited by what they were going to get to see.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we've answered Megan's question, but we're just going to put it up here and get you to re-answer it so that if anybody missed it, everyone is aware. So she says, so those cruises are 100% inclusive, no separate alcohol packages?
No, you can have anything. I had Blue Label Johnny Walker, and it was all included. Like you could go to the best spirit you can find on that bar, and it's all included.
So we actually can't buy onboard credit for clients for these sailings because there's really literally nothing to buy on the ship except for, like Matt said, maybe the glamping, which is included, right? Or which is included in May, and then maybe the spa.
That's it.
I think there's nothing else. So they don't even allow you to buy onboard credit for clients.
There is a few t-shirts, I will say, like a very one little rack.
Shop.
I actually broke my sunglasses right when I got there. The service was amazing that they didn't sell sunglasses on the ship, but they just handed me a brand new pair of Ray-Bans to use while I was on the ship with the tag still on. So that was absolutely free. And then I just handed them back at the end of the week.
Yeah, and the cruise director who's on the ship is Canadian. It's amazing to run into a Canadian who's the cruise director on the ship. All of the staff are from Ecuador, minus a couple of like the managerial positions, but even some of the high-ranking managerial positions are Ecuadorians who have worked their way up the ranks in the celebrity brand and have made it back to the Flora in those managerial positions. So like the maitre d' and the hotel director, those are Ecuadorians, and then you get the cruise director who's Canadian, and the captain is obviously not from Ecuador, but the rest of the staff are all locals.
And can I just say that when I went, I thought, well, that's a long way to go for 7 days. I mean, we did the 11-day I think we did the 11-day where, you do your few days in Ecuador before and one day after, but really your main trip is that 7 days when they take you out to the Galapagos and you're on the Flora, and it's like the perfect amount of time at the end of the 7 days. Like I wasn't physically exhausted, but I was very fulfilled. It was like perfect. We got to see everything a gazillion times. It wasn't like, oh my God, we saw one blue-footed booby, the whole week. No, we saw hundreds. And, we got to see everything. We really got to immerse ourselves in the Galapagos and understand it and live it. And it just felt like the perfect amount of time. So, if you're curious about it, it does feel like a short trip, but it didn't. It felt like we were there for a really long time, and it was amazing.
And just to add to that, the highlight for me was, and I would say try everything. If you're not comfortable, we had people jump in the water to go snorkeling, and it was too wavy that they came out right away. I'm not a strong swimmer, but I did go and I did finish it quite comfortably with a wetsuit. But if you imagine swimming with the sea lions, penguins, white-tip sharks, stingrays, turtles, everything within a half hour, all at once, everything's just swimming around you. It was absolutely amazing. That hit the top of my list. So.
Wow, I have some serious cruise envy going on right now. This has moved up my bucket list. So we do have another question. It came from Anne. She says, if you book your flight, it is a direct flight from Toronto. If so, how long is the flight? So can you do a direct flight? And if you do a direct flight, how long would that take?
Mine was not direct, so I'm not sure if there is a direct.
Mine was not. I stopped in Miami.
Yeah, I stopped in Atlanta.
I stopped in Panama.
How long
it was
were your
about
flights?
12 hours, though, with the connection. Does that sound about right?
But if you include your flights with Celebrity, you will have a dedicated call system in the Flights by Celebrity. They have a whole separate desk than the rest of the Flights by Celebrity program. So as soon as you get through that first voice prompt on Flights by Celebrity, they're going to ask you if you're a Galapagos guest, and you will get put to a separate agent who deals strictly with the Galapagos flights, who will be able to work with whatever carriers you're looking to fly with. And then based on your airline of preference, whether it's because of rewards, aeroplan points, air miles, whatever, they will work with you to pick from the existing flights that they have available. So for us, we flew with Delta. So that's why I ended up going through Atlanta, because we flew with Delta. And as an added point, and when you're thinking about flights, if you have your flights through Celebrity and they're included because you booked that promotional offer for the flights, you can ask what an upgrade would be to a business class. And they'll tell you that because your economy class is covered, to get it to a business class flight would only be so much more to fly business, which is what we ended up doing when we flew Delta. We flew business class through Atlanta and on to Quito.
Great. Wow. Sounds easy peasy. Sign me up. All right. So I think I don't see any more questions this evening. So we are wrapping up, it looks like, right on time. I'm going to go to our giveaway, and I'm just going to put the first person to comment with one of the wildlife that our travel advisors have mentioned tonight will win. Oh, I got to turn my camera on. Give me one sec. Oh, they're going to win one of these lovely passport holders. We're getting new swag, so we're down to the last few things, and then you're going to get one of our great door magnets, which are very handy when you're cruising. So first person to comment with oh. You are right, Elaine. It was the blue-footed booby. That definitely got mentioned more than once. All right.
Oh, there's somebody before that, Linda.
Anne got in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anne snuck it in. Anne snuck it in right before. Sorry, Mom. No passport holder for you.
No. Only for Anne. I'm sorry, Anne. I didn't see that. My feed didn't go in order right away. So Anne, you are the winner. Congratulations. And we will get your contact information for you. I'll put my email in the comments, and you can email me your mailing address and we'll get that out to you. Whoops. And that's it for me. It's going back to Tina.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us again for another Wednesday night of Cruise Chat for Canadians. And we hope to see you all next week, where we have a special panel member. We are bringing on Mitch Marucci from Royal Caribbean. And who's doing this one? Carrie. Carrie's going to be presenting short but sweet cruises, which we all know Royal Caribbean has a lot of. So it's a good, timely panel for Mitch to join us next week. So join us all then, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Night, everyone.